My role is to work with the governor on behalf of the people of Alaska on issues that arise all across the board. Every significant state issue that the governor has responsibility for, I'm engaged with him, and from time to time on his behalf. For example, he's asked me to be his statewide fisheries advisor.
I am the president and CEO of Bethel Native Corporation. We are the for-profit village corporation for the village of Bethel. We have about 2,000 shareholders, and I also serve as the co-chair of the Alaska Federation of Natives.
And I'm actively involved in the upper management of the corporation. I also sit on several board of directors, such as the Alaska Federation of Natives, ANCSA Regional Association, Resource Development Council, Community Financial, and all these organizations make a lot of decisions that affect hundreds of thousands of Alaskans on a daily basis.
The way I define our community for the purposes of my work is the larger Alaska Native community, which is much bigger, and there's a lot more diverse opinions.
I really think we're having the greatest impact today at the state level. Historically, obviously, that's not been the case, but that's where a number of our leaders, both in the legislature and in the state administration, our voices are more present, are more heard, and we're having much more of an influence on policy issues. Obviously, it's still not where we'd like it to be, but I do think that's where we're probably strongest right now.
So I really think that with changes that are happening in the Arctic, that there has been a real coalescence of voices. And in that regard, 3 of the regions in the Arctic, Bering Straits Native Corporation, ASRC, and NANA, formed an alliance last year to ensure that our voices are heard as policy and other decisions are made in the Arctic, because we are the indigenous people of the Arctic. We've been in the Arctic for thousands of years. We're subsistence-based people still, so food security is an issue for all of us, and we want to ensure that when development happens, that it's done in a way that does not adversely impact our subsistence lifestyle.
You know, when I began as a very young man, at the time of the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act effort, there were very few natives with degrees, let alone professional achievement or experience. There were very few lawyers, there were very few doctors, and now we have just a panoply across the state of Native leadership, both female and male, young and old. We have a growing cadre of experienced business professionals. We have more and more Alaska Natives involved in our school systems, in our educational systems. We have Alaska Natives. We have an Alaska Native voice in the White House and in departments all across the country. It doesn't mean that we still don't have a long way to go, but we are, as a Native community in Alaska, representing less than 20% of the total population of the state, I think have a broad array and depth of Native involvement in our state than some might realize unless you step back and think about it a little bit.
Right now, I would say the Small Business Administration's 8A program. Alaska Native people as a whole stand behind that program and the benefits that Alaska Native people have seen because of it. And it is under attack by outside voices, and Alaska Natives, Native American people as a whole, Native Hawaiians have come together to protect that amazing program that was put into place by the federal government.
The issue that I find we're most united on tends to be with wildlife and subsistence, simply because it is so encompassing. It impacts the culture, it impacts our daily life, it impacts the economy, impacts all of us so much. It's so integral to the economy, so integral to the community, that I find that we tend to support each other. Even if they're eating something different in Southeast than we eat in Northwest, we still respect the fact that they need to eat and the traditional foods for health reasons, for cultural reasons, and for economic reasons.
I think the AFN resolutions process really provides a good example of how tribes and corporations and nonprofit entities can work together and come to a consensus on issues that are of importance to the Native community. And that process involves resolutions being submitted for consideration to the Alaska Federation of Natives, and then those resolutions are reviewed to ensure that they are statewide in nature and aren't divisive. And then they are brought forward to the convention floor and discussed and debated. And a lot of times they're improved when they are brought to the floor, because delegates from all over Alaska can have a say in terms of how the final outcome of the resolution is drafted. And I think that really represents when AFN as a whole speaks. When you have all of the delegates speaking as a whole, it really represents a powerful voice in Alaska.
You need to have relationships, you need to build networks, you need to get to know people personally, you need to reach beyond the obvious of their particular public policy views and get to know them as people, as individuals, that's important. It's hugely important.
Well, what I envision is our leadership being flexible. There's never just one thing that's more important than all things. I think that as Indigenous leaders or non-Native leaders, we are open to and we respond to the needs of our communities, and those are going to vary depending on what defines our community. So despite all of those differences, being able to adapt and being able to come together in a way that can address one or more of these things and be in conversation with others is what I see.
In terms of Alaska's future, I'm really hopeful that the decisions that are made that impact Alaska and our lives and the lives of the residents of Alaska, the Indigenous people of Alaska, the businesses that do business here in Alaska, that those decisions are made at our level. That we don't have people who come in and think that they know what's best for Alaska and for Alaskans making decisions when they live 8,000 miles away.
Every person's experience, their upbringing adds to the quality of our government. And if we are not inclusive of the state's first people, then the absence is going to be profound. And we as a whole state will suffer as a result. And I think that as we continue to see Alaska Natives serving on boards and commissions and serving as commissioners and directors, and they're on the third floor of our state government, we're going to reap the benefits as a state from their participation.